Welcome to Breaking It All Down. I'm Count Zero. Well, we finally reached this point, the last issue of Nintendo Fun Club News. From here on, it is Nintendo Power proper, the magazine which I grew up with. But still, we have one last issue of Fun Club News to go. Fun Club News number 7 for June and July of 1988. It's a bit of a shame that this issue of Fun Club News is so poor. I get the impression with this issue that they were putting so much effort into getting Nintendo Power ready that they spent no time at all at putting this issue together, which is why, really, only one new game is reviewed this issue and featured. Everything else is either covering something that already came out, or something that will be featured much more prominently next issue. So, let's get started. After our cover art showing off the sports recap column this issue, we have an ad for the Ultra brand. This is Konami's second label that they used to basically get around Nintendo of America's release restrictions. Acclaim would later use a similar tactic by buying out LJN in 1989 and using it as a second label for their video game division, and they do it a third time by starting up the Flying Edge and Arena Entertainment labels to get around Nintendo of America's exclusivity restrictions so they could release games for the Sega Genesis. We start off the articles proper with a selection of tips and tricks from Metroid, focusing on the various weapons that you can get in the game. After this, we have Louis Reviewee's column, his last one, sadly, in Nintendo Power, the Fun Club News, where he talks about Wizards and Warriors, which is Rare's third time featured in the magazine thus far, although this game is published by Acclaim instead of Nintendo. This is one of those cases with this game where the box art is a blatant lie. The main character on the box is a Frank Frazetta-esque loincloth-clad warrior, while the main character of the game is wearing a full suit of plate armor. The game itself has you playing a knight who has to rescue a series of captured princesses before defeating an evil sorcerer. To do this, you basically have to go through a series of worlds with very precise platforming, while killing enemies with your sword, gathering various keys, and collecting gemstones. This game really is kind of a pain in the butt. I found it difficult to access some of the areas of the game, even after getting the power-ups that are supposed to help me access these areas, and the platforming is a little too precise for my liking. The attack range for the main weapon of the game isn't very helpful, and until you get the dagger of throwing, attacking enemies while jumping is rather difficult, aside from sort of jumping on your enemies. To the game's credit, it does have unlimited continues, and while your score resets, when you continue, you keep all of your power-up items, keys, and gemstones that you've collected on that level, or in the game thus far, for in the case of power-ups, and you basically pick up right where you left off, with no more penalty than if you died normally. Still, while those accommodations by the game keep things from becoming onerously frustrating, the game's still obnoxious. It, particularly with the exploration of the game and how difficult it is to deal with the fairly precise platforming without the level of precision that I would expect from a game like, well, Mega Man. This game is not hard, to be clear. It is not a difficult, throw your controller against the wall game. This doesn't make you hate the game because it is difficult. Instead, the game simply is not fun. It is kind of tedious, it is dull, it is kind of a grind, but without basically the ding reward at the end that you get if you're grinding in a more traditional RPG from leveling up and so forth. It's just boring. It's tedious. It feels like work. It's not fun. I cannot recommend this game. Going back to LJN, we get a full-page ad hyping their lineup. Considering LJN's reputation as, well, their logo symbolizing the rainbow of crap, I think we can safely refer to the line depicted in this advertisement of people waiting to get their products as being false advertising. In sneak peeks, we see a couple bosses from Mario 2, as well as notice that Zelda 2 has been delayed due to the 1988 chip shortage. There's also an ad here for Capcom's shooter 1943, the home version of it, developed by Tosei. And I'm vaguely tempted to review this game, just so I'm reviewing more than one game per issue, but it's a game by Tosei, and really, they don't have a good track record in any way, shape, or form, so I'm just going to give it a miss. There's an ad here from Konami setting up their upcoming lineup, because they and Ultra are totally different from each other. Really, we mean it. And an ad hyping the first issue of Nintendo Power with a mock-up of the cover of the first issue, though this mock-up uses a drawn cover instead of the clay diorama photograph that would be the actual cover of the magazine's first issue. After that is the 1988 sports game wrap-up, which consists entirely of games that I've already reviewed. So, moving on. Data East has an ad for Cobra Command, and Jalico has one for the First Bases Loaded, neither of which are out yet, so I can't review them yet. Moving on. We have the first Power Players column, a column where players can write in to talk about how awesome they are. It's kind of like on Xbox Live where they have the gamer tag profiles or whatever. However, one thing that changes when we transition from Fun Club News to Nintendo Power is the Nintendo Power version of this column does not feature photographs of the players. Also, we have our crossword puzzles and other stuff to wrap up this issue. Well, that was a load of hot garbage. I'm not going to give a pick this issue because there's only one game featured this issue, and I didn't like it. I'm not going to recommend something I didn't have fun playing. Fortunately, though, the raid is over. In 2 weeks, I will have my recap of Nintendo Power number 1. Next week, though, it's been a while, I think I'll review a movie. I'll see you then, and until then, thank you for watching.